What's happening, party people? Welcome to Punchboard Party. My name is Daniel, and this video is a follow-up to my last, where we are on a journey. We've made it to the town of Stratford. This is a theater town next to where I live, and I just love coming out here for drives. I get to drive through the country, and then I get to a really quality spot. Last video I talked about the 5 games that got me into the hobby. In this video I want to talk about the 5 games that kept me in the hobby, that cemented me as a hobby board game.
Lost again, going back around, dreaming of a time when I get things right. Lost in the shadows of a million stars, shouldn't they enlighten my near and far?
Number 1 for games that kept me into the hobby, made sure that I was to become a board gamer for life. We're talking about Jamaica. Jamaica is a fantastic racing game where you are pirates racing around the island of Jamaica, and you're going to get into conflicts where you're going to blow your opponents out of the water, take their loot, and keep sailing away. The core of this game is this wonderful hand management situation where you have 3 cards in your hand at a time, and the cards have 2 symbols on them, one on the left hand and one on the right hand. And each turn there's going to be a daytime action and a nighttime action determined by the roll of some dice. And so on each turn, all the players simultaneously are going to select a card, and that card is going to determine what their daytime action is and what their nighttime action is. And the roll of the dice is going to determine how many or how much or how good that action is going to be. This is a fantastic game, and it immediately replaced Ticket to Ride for me as the gateway game that I bring to the table when I'm introducing people to the hobby. Jamaica is still in my top 5 games of all time. I absolutely love it.
Send a little love and I'll make it back. Send me a letter and a bottle of wine, telling me I will be fine. Baby, I'm stuck with a halfway heart. Slip away if I come too far. Pick me up when I'm in pieces.
The next 4 games on my list, I bought within close proximity to each other. I probably went a year buying a game here or there, but nothing that I bought really hit the same spot as Jamaica did. I wasn't losing faith that board games were going to provide me with that kind of fun experience again, but I was just waiting for it. And then 4 games in a row. So the first combo that I'm going to talk about are my number 2 and number 3 games that kept me in the hobby, and we're talking about Kingsburg and Manhattan Project. Kingsburg is this beautiful dice rolling worker placement game where there's all these characters on the board, and they give you all sorts of different resources, and you have 3 dice that you roll, and the pips on your dice are going to determine what characters you're going to be able to solicit for resources. So if you roll a 3, a 2, and a 5, then maybe I would place my 5 on the number 5 character and he'll give me something. Or maybe I'll combine my 5 and my 2 to put my dice on the 7 character and they'll give me something different. You're taking turn by turn as players, placing your dice on the board, and spaces might get taken from you if you kind of put down your dice in the wrong order or the wrong combination. What's really cool about this game is that as you're placing dice to get resources, you're wanting to build buildings, and these buildings are going to give you abilities as the game goes by, and they're going to make your moves either more powerful or allow you to get more victory points, or to help you defend against the ravenous hordes of demons, orcs, and monsters that are coming at the end of every winter season. This game is just a ton of fun, and it packs a thematic punch, and I just really enjoyed it. And what makes Kingsburg special to me, this is the first game that I can distinctly remember sitting in a big armchair, opening up the rule book, and realizing that this game was going to be a little bit too complicated for me to understand first go, but that I was going to do my best. And I sat there and I read that rule book and I learned the rules and I got it down. And so it was, again, another threshold for me in my board gaming experience, that I can learn new games and teach them to people successfully.
Slip away if I come too far. Pick me up when I'm in pieces. Oh, that halfway heart.
The next game in that combo was Manhattan Project. I love Manhattan Project. This is an amazing worker placement game where you are putting workers on the board of 3 different types. There's engineers, there's normal workers, and there's scientists. And depending on the worker type, they can go to various spaces on the board. And what you're doing is you're collecting factory cards to produce various resources, or you're collecting resources off the board, or blueprints off the board, so that you can build different kinds of atomic, uranium bombs that you're going to be using to leverage in a Cold War. The theme is really serious, but it kind of tones it down, or not takes itself too seriously by using kind of these cute cartoony images on the different worker tiles that you're putting out on the board. And so what made me really love this game is this was the first game that I really went head to head with somebody on. My roommate at the time, he loved to play games too. Shout out to Dave. And Dave and I, we would play this game all the time. And it was the first time that I had the experience of actually getting better at a game. So also in this game, when you get cards, you put them in your own play area and they become your own personal worker placement spaces. But you can invest in bombers that you can use to fly over your opponent's worker placement spaces so that they can't use those factories anymore to produce resources. So you can do that as a strategy, or you can just keep it simple and just stick to kind of a regular straightforward worker placement game, or you can go on the espionage track, and that allows you to use your workers on your opponent's worker placement spaces. So this is a game where the more you play it, the more things open up. By the time Dave and I were done playing this, our games were so robust where we were using every dimension and every aspect of this game to try and get the better of our opponent. So this was just another hook in me to keep finding games that had this robustness and flavor, and I just started to want more. For my number 4, I'm gonna be standing in front of this creepy robot Shakespeare here. I hope he doesn't freak you out too much. If you could see his eyes. We're talking about the first in another combo. I bought Dead of Winter and 5 Tribes right around the same time. And this was a 1-2 punch that I will never forget. Dead of Winter just immersed me in the world of board games. It was the first game to let me know that paper and cardboard could make me feel something, that I could actually be immersed into a story, and it captures the hopelessness of this situation so well. And showing this game to people was the first time that I had the experience of like a wow factor for non-board gamers, sort of putting this out on the table and having people be drawn by curiosity to what this game could possibly be. And then as the gameplay unfolded, they were just totally swept up in the experience and the backstabbing and the accusations and the finger pointing. This game is just brilliant for bringing just tension and panic to life. And I didn't know that board games could be that until I played this game. Well, my number 5, 5 Tribes, became my number 1 favorite game of all time and still remains my number 1 favorite game of all time. I love 5 Tribes. And as you can tell, I'm a fairly enthusiastic person, so I love a lot of things. But when I say I love 5 Tribes, I love it a lot. So basically you have 5 colors of meeples, and they're scattered all across the board. And each tile starts with 3 meeples per tile. And your job on your turn is to pick up all the meeples that are on one tile and then make a trail across all the other tiles until you run out of meeples. And so you're placing a meeple down on every tile you cross, and your goal is to finish on a tile with the same color meeple as the last meeple you have in your hand. And so it's this really tricky puzzle to try and figure out. And it's fascinating because where you end gives you 2 abilities. It gives you the ability of the color meeple that you're using to finish your turn, as well as the ability on the tile where you finish your turn. And so you're always looking for the most optimal move. So meeples will do different things. They'll allow you to buy cards from the market, which will get you victory points. They allow you to get up straight up money, which translate equally to victory points. They allow you to assassinate meeples on the board, which might allow you to control an extra tile, which is going to get you victory points. Yellow meeples are just worth victory points and more if you have a majority. This kind of thing. And then tiles themselves allow you to recruit genies, which will give you ongoing special benefits and abilities. This game has everything. And what I love about this game is just, I think it just came to me at the right time. And this game has just cemented its way into my heart as my favorite game of all time. And I don't think anything is going to dethrone it. So there we have it, party people. The 5 games that kept me in the hobby, that cemented my legacy as a board game enthusiast. So please, down below in the comments, tell me what were the games that kept you in the hobby. Not necessarily the games that got you into the hobby, but the games that made you realize that you loved board games oh so very much. So until next time, party people, have the best day.
Lost again,